morning. How are you all doing? All right. Welcome to Seattle. Welcome to Build 2017. Finally, spring has arrived in Seattle. They tell me that it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day outside. And so we thought it would be an awesome idea to bring you all into this dark room and talk about cloud computing. You know, for me, these developer conferences have been the way I've, in some sense, marked the passage of time. The progress that we as an industry make, we as a company have made, we as a set of developers in the ecosystem have made. Recently someone posted a presentation I did perhaps in '93. It was one of those classic code-on-screen developer conferences. This was pre-web, and we were so excited about Windows NT coming out and the birth of client server. And I think this slide was all about connecting to an SNA, through an SNA server to a host machine, getting data into Excel, using VB automation. And I was sort of listening to this, and I was thinking, wow, you know, it's so cool to get excited about technology. And in fact, my daughter saw this picture and said, who is that? And you know, a lot has changed. In fact, one of the developers, as I was prepping for it, said, hey, there seems to be a real inverse relationship between the amount of hair you have and the amount of computing power that we've now grown. And then later he realized that they made a big mistake. Because what about the future? Because I've reached the limits of physics now. I don't have more hair to lose. So we truly are in that post-Moore's law, and maybe it's GPUs and FPGAs or what have you that'll have to come and help us. It's stunning, though, to see the progress across the depth and breadth of our society and economy, and how digital technology is so pervasive. There was this one stat, because we were talking about the past a bit. In 1992, when I joined the company, the total amount of internet traffic, this was pre-web, was around 100 gigabytes per day. And now, per second, we have 17.5 million times that. In fact, 90% of all the data has been generated in the last 2 years. An autonomous car is going to generate something like 100 gigabytes per second. And by 2020, it's estimated that there is going to be 25 billion intelligent devices. So whether it's precision medicine or precision agriculture, whether it's digital media or the industrial internet, the opportunity for us as developers to have broad, deep impact on all parts of society and all parts of economy has never been greater. Now, but with this enormous opportunity, I believe comes enormous responsibility. We talked about this even last year. But to me, the choices we as developers make are going to have pretty profound implications. You know, I'm an unrepentant tech optimist, there's no question of that. But also I'm grounded, though, that there are unintended consequences of technology. And it's not that we can just use more technology to solve for those problems. And definitely technologists by themselves cannot solve for these. But I do believe that it is up to us to ensure that some of the more dystopian scenarios don't come true. I mean, if you think about it, what Orwell prophesied in 1984 where technology was being used to monitor, control, dictate. Or what Huxley imagined we may do by just distracting ourselves without any meaning or purpose. Neither of these futures is something that we want. So the question is, what are we going to do? What are the practical ways we can make progress? And to me, it comes down to a set of design principles and choices we make. I believe we can make these practical design choices that help enshrine our timeless values. The first one is that we should empower people with technology. That's got to be the front and center consideration for everything that we do going forward. People have to be in the loop. Let's amplify their capability, amplify their ingenuity. Second, let us use technology to bring more empowerment to more people. When you have these amazing advances in computer vision, or speech, or text understanding, let us use that to bring more people to be able to use technology and to participate economically in our society. So this inclusive design ultimately can be an instrument for inclusive growth. And lastly, I think it's up to us, as the world becomes more technology-driven, digital technology is part and parcel of every aspect, building trust in technology is crucial. And I think it starts with us taking accountability for the algorithms we create, the experiences that we create, and ensuring that there is more trust in technology with each day. These principles, these are practical things, but yet they capture, I think, the essence of the timeless values. And this is what grounds us in our mission. When we say we want to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, and I think it especially speaks to empowering every developer. After all, we are a company that started as a dev tools company. We want to think about people, but we also want to think about the institutions people build. We want to think about what we do across the globe, every part of the world. And perhaps most importantly, it's not just celebrating any platform or technology of ours, but it's about celebrating what you can do with that technology to have broad impact. And that's what we've been realizing. That mission, that sense of purpose is what has been driving us in this mobile-first, cloud-first world. And the opportunity that you all have around Microsoft platforms is pretty stunning and amazing. Think about the 500 million Windows 10 devices that you can now reach through the Windows Store. That reach is what's going to drive our ecosystem going forward. It's going to give each one of you more of an audience, more users, more engagement in a secure way. And we're going to talk a lot about the advances in Windows Store throughout this conference. 100 million MAU of Office 365. This is the most valuable set of users in the core of the enterprise using these tools every day. And we've done a lot to make all of your applications more discoverable, more usable inside the user experience scaffolding of Office. I mean, take Teams. It's so amazing to see how we build teams with that third-party extensions being front and center, bots, tabs, extensions, all of those being surfaced within the user experience scaffolding of Teams. I think huge opportunity. Outlook extensions, all through Office. So you have now the ability to reach 100 million of these most valuable users with any application you build. I mean, Cortana is getting used by 140 million users every month on Windows today. I mean, just to put this in perspective, these are devices, by the way, that all have near-field audio and screens. And so when you start writing skills that is going to take audio input or text input and have responses that are both audio and screens, you have an amazing install base already that's rich that you can extend. In terms of organizations, there are over 12 million organizational entities in Azure Active Directory. So this is both large businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, educational institutions. 12 million of them are already inside of Azure Active Directory. That means they're using one of the cloud services we have. And that means your applications can do single sign-on across all of these 12 million organizations, reducing friction, making it possible for you to reach them. Over 90% of the Fortune 500 are using our cloud today. So this is all a foundation for the opportunity that you have in front of you as you build your applications and services. And throughout these 3 days, we're going to talk about how we're continuing to advance these platforms, continuing to advance this opportunity so that you get the best return on the investments you make on Microsoft platforms. Now, one of the things that always happens is you as developers, with the apps you build and the feedback cycle between those applications and the platform, is what shapes the evolution of platforms. Last year, we talked a lot about conversations as a platform, and this year, you will see in demo after demo people using conversations as a platform. People building agents, personal assistants that span devices, skills for those agents, bots, natural user interfaces for these multi-device applications, whether it be text or speech or even vision and gestures with mixed reality. IoT, big workload in the cloud. AI is everywhere. The ability to reason over large amounts of data, create intelligence, distribute it. Even the microservices, workflows, advanced analytics that people are building in the cloud are all pointing to what I think is a fundamental change in the paradigm of the apps that we are building, a change in the worldview that we have. We are moving from what is today's mobile-first, cloud-first world to a new world that is going to be made up of an intelligent cloud and an intelligent edge. And this entire conference is about talking about this massive shift that's going to play out in the years to come. There are three fundamental characteristics of this new application pattern and worldview. First is the user experience is getting distributed across devices. It's no longer just mobile first. In other words, it's not about one device, an app model for one device. The user experience itself is going to span all of your devices. Easiest to understand it when you think about your personal digital assistant. Your personal digital assistant, by definition, is going to be available on all your devices. And in fact, as you move between devices, it's going to be there, helping you get your tasks done. That multi-device experience is what now needs platform capability. You need new abstractions, not for just a single piece of hardware, but all of the devices that help you build out your application. And by the way, this is user experience that is not just about input. It has also got state in it. And so that's what leads to, in fact, the second big change that is happening. It's AI. We know the currency of this platform shift is all about data. We talked about the car, right? 100 gigabytes of data per second for an autonomous car or connected car. When you have that type of data being generated at the edge, data has gravity. Computational power will move to it. And so that means the AI you create is going to be, by definition, more distributed. You, in fact, already see these cases where people are doing a lot of the training in GPUs on the cloud, but are deploying the models in the edge. But we're reaching a point where you can't rendezvous all the data for training in the cloud. You actually will have to train and do your inferences in the edge. So you absolutely need a new set of abstractions for even AI in terms of how you learn and you train and you infer that spans both the edge and the cloud. And so as you see the experience as well as data and AI getting distributed, there needs to be a fundamental change in the inner and the outer loop of what we as developers do. Continuous integration, continuous deployment is going to change, and that's where things like microservices, containers are playing a massive role in the outer loop. But one of the things that's, I think, going to completely change how we think about logic is serverless. In a world where things get more distributed, event-driven, you want to be able to write logic that reacts to these events, is not static. That means you don't have a piece of logic just being bound and running on one virtual machine in one location, but it's something that can actually be mobile. I mean, think about even these AI models. One of the big challenges is going to be model drift. So you want to be able to tackle that. So serverless computation is going to fundamentally not only change the economics of what is back-end computing, but it's going to be the core of the future of distributed computing. So this application paradigm shift of intelligent cloud and intelligent edge is going to be pervasively changing everything we do inside of Windows, inside of Office 365, inside of Azure. And the rest of what you will hear about in the next 3 days is about unpacking this. So what I think the best way to perhaps get into this would be to actually start seeing this in action. The first demo we want to show you is from a company, Sandvik, which is a Swedish industrial automation company, 150 years old, 43,000 people in the company. They build industrial automation, these industrial metal cutting machinery that does high precision work. They built a cloud application to be able to take all of the data from their machines, do predictions, preventive maintenance. And they realized that, in fact, they started using the time series capability. So that means you were able to see the anomalies as they happen. But with time series, the cool thing is that you can, in fact, go back and see what is the causal effect or what is the causation of the anomaly. And so once you start seeing that, then they said, well, we should be able to make these decisions on when to shut the machine before it does any damage without having latency and bandwidth issues and so on. So they said, well, we need to distribute the logic that they've written in the cloud to the edge itself. And that's where they wrote Azure Functions. That's where the logic was written. And then they containerized it in Docker and moved it to the edge so that they could take those inference decisions and make them so much more faster. And to show you this demo, I wanted to invite up on stage Sam George from our IoT team to sort of